Art can be daring. Art can be decadent. Art can be reckless.
It is dangerous when I paint.
Art can be sexy.
There's something really special about burlesque.
Art is everywhere.
Yay!
Today, we get behind the wheel and take a look at Jaguar cars. First, the man responsible for keeping Jaguar looking fresh and exciting.
A lot of people said to me when I started here, well, what's your design philosophy? I said, well, I don't need a design philosophy. I'm working for Jaguar now. Jaguar has a design philosophy.
Then, Jaguar's legendary performance.
Our objective is when customers drive our cars, they feel a real connection to the car. It's an extension of themselves.
Also, we visit Castle Bromwich to see how these beautiful cars are made.
We're currently manufacturing 76 vehicles per day.
That's all next on The Art of Jaguar. Jaguar is a company that's been synonymous with luxury automobiles for over half a century. They quickly defined themselves with stylish, performance-driven cars with bold designs and exaggerated features. Through the 1950s, Jaguar expanded into racing vehicles and won Le Mans several times. They haven't let up since, making cars that are both beautiful and a pleasure to drive. Modern-day Jaguar draws inspiration from its past while simultaneously improving and innovating. A large part of that is thanks to a man who took the reins of the design department and helped Jaguar become what it is today.
You know, a lot of people say to me that designing automobiles is a very mechanical process. Of course, it's a mechanical process, but there's an art. You know, every line, every surface, every notion you see in that car has been deliberately thought through by a person or a group of people, created from nothing. This art form also has to take on board the attributes of performance and safety and costs and manufacturing. And I think to get any art form out the other end of all that stuff is not enough a miracle, to be honest. My name is Ian Callum. I'm design director for Jaguar Cars.
Since 1999, Callum and his team have been working hard to reinvent Jaguar, a brand he's been passionate about since a young age.
When I was a teenager, I fell in love with Jaguars. I understood it to be a very modern car company, a very radical car company. Around about the same time the new XJ came out in 1968. And remember, I'd grown up in the 60s where Jaguars were very special, but this suddenly took Jaguar to a whole new era, a whole new sense of excitement for me. And what I really liked about it was it upset all my father's friends who owned Jaguars. And they were relatively conservative, I suppose, and this thing was quite radical for them, and they all hummed and hawed and said they wouldn't want one of these new Jags. It was a rebellious car from my point of view. Rock stars drove Jags, footballers drove Jags. They were the fastest cars on the road, and they were beautiful. It had huge wheels, had a very low roof line, and the bonnet line and the hood line and the fender line, the wings were very low indeed. And the whole proportion of the car was like nothing else I'd seen before. It was very brave. It was actually declared the best sedan in the world at the time, but that was a fact. It was the best sedan in the world. In fact, some people compared it to Rolls Royces and Bentleys, and certainly could drive much better than any of those cars.
Callum and his team don't shy away from doing the unexpected, which is what attracted him to Jaguar in the first place.
A lot of people said to me when I started here, well, what's your design philosophy? I said, well, I don't need a design philosophy. I'm working for Jaguar now. Jaguar has a design philosophy. It's about great, exciting proportions. It's about creating a shape that people will turn around and look at. It's about simplicity, and it's about beauty. So that's the design philosophy. You just create something that people want to turn around and look at. I have my rules by which I want to do that. But the biggest one is discipline. And the second one is breaking the rules. Part of my job is to create something which is aesthetically pleasing, exciting, as well as something that works. The way we start off designing any car at Jaguar is we start with a pencil and paper. We start sketching, and then we go into a digital world very, very quickly at this point, so we can capture all the digital facts that we need to work with, dimensions, legal dimensions, safety dimensions, package dimensions. But my job is to hold on to the spontaneity of that original sketch. And then we start sculpting the model, and then we will digitize the model, bring it back into the digital world, and then eventually we come out with the real car. And that whole process will take anything up to 3.5 years. You know, our whole essence of being here is creative. Now, so much of what we have to take on board is factual, but in order to work with that, the more creative we are, the more special the car is going to be. If we just take the facts and develop a car around facts, and some manufacturers do that, you'll end up with a very boring car. And so the creative side of what we do is just absolutely paramount, that we take those facts and we manipulate everything we can to create something special. I have a lovely phrase: when things become difficult, you think of an idea which is new. I go into the phase of 5 whys. You ask why, and you get an answer. And you ask why to that answer. By the time you get to the 5th why of why something cannot happen, you usually find it can be done. And so, the creative side of this is very important, because you need to have that vision of where you're going to go and hold on to it. And if you don't have that creative element and that sense of vision, you'll end up in mediocrity. It might be perfect mediocrity. There's a lot of that around, but you have to have that creative spark to get something that's different. I think what makes Jaguar Performance and the design so special is we break the rules. We don't take the generic set of dimensions and say, this is what's going to create a perfect sports car. What we'll do is we'll take a lot of those rules, especially the dynamics, and we'll make them work, but alongside something which looks different from everything else. And the thing about a Jaguar is, because we break the rules and because we create these tensions, it creates something which makes it much more special. To me, that is essentially what Jaguar is all about.
Welcome back to the Art of Jaguar.
I think that automobiles should be functional works of art. My job is actually to do exactly that. It's to translate Ian Callum's design into a product that people can enjoy and love for life. My name is Russ Varney. I'm the Vehicle Program Director for Jaguar Sports Cars.
There's no denying that Jaguar cars look great, but equally as important as the design is how the vehicle performs. Russ and his crew of engineers work tirelessly to get the most power out of the car as possible.
The Jaguar design team and the Jaguar engineering team work very, very closely together. It's very, very important for 2 reasons, really. One is design is absolutely key to the Jaguar brand. So we have to, from an engineering point of view, support Ian in every way we can. So we will fight over the last millimetre in order to deliver the right design. But we also need to make sure that the function of the car meets our standards and meets our customer expectations. And sometimes those 2 things cross over. And our job as an engineering team is to create and invent designs that actually do both things. So our objective is, when customers drive our cars, they feel a real connection to the car. They've been attracted to the car by the design. I think that's beautiful. We want them to get into the car and have an emotional connection to the car. And then as soon as they start the engine, they should get a signal of the performance of the car. It's a car that they feel part of and an extension of themselves. And hopefully the design that they saw from the outside, they've got inside the car.
Like Ian Callum, Russ had a passion for Jaguar early in life and got himself an apprenticeship at 15. And he stayed with the company ever since.
From a very early age, I always wanted to be involved in automotive, had cars running through my blood, and I applied to join Jaguar and was lucky enough to be able to join the Jaguar team, and been lucky enough to have many different roles throughout my career, and now I'm through and through Jaguar, and I guess I'm going to finish my career at Jaguar as well. My job entails looking at all of the Jaguar sports car products. I effectively own the product from the beginning to the very end. It starts off with setting some targets for each and every element of the car. And we then take that into what we call a virtual phase. And in that virtual phase, we build a car in the virtual world. So it's parts put together on a computer, and then we test that car on the computer as well. And through that loop of test work, we then change the designs and develop them to be better. Once we're satisfied, we then release those designs and make real prototype cars. And our expectation is that the car's 95% of the way there by the time we build the very first prototype. And that allows us then to spend time with the prototypes and with the human input into the car to deliver that last 5%. And the last 5% is the difference between a good car and a great one.
One of Russ's main concerns is making sure that the Jaguar legacy of performance continues.
The Jaguar DNA has remained consistent right through the whole life of the Jaguar brand. It's always been about performance, it's always been about design. To get great performance, really you do need two things, great engines and a lightweight body. So we've got some great engines. The maximum output we have from the V8 is 550 horsepower, and we've got a very lightweight body. It's all aluminum, so it's about 40% lighter than a steel body would be. So the combination of those two factors really are the key and the foundation to delivering a great performing vehicle. I'm very, very proud of what Jaguar has achieved.
Everything about Jaguar cars is carefully considered and engineered, right down to the sound of the engine.
So the sound the car makes is something that we work really hard on, and it's engineered to sound like it does. It doesn't just happen that way. We will set some targets of the sort of sound we want to make, and we'll actually create that sound in a listening room and pick from a number of samples the noise that we think the car should make and how it should crescendo throughout as it's revved and through the gears to create that excitement that the customer ultimately gets.
A recent Jaguar vehicle that showcases the perfect combination of design and performance is the F-Type, a car directly influenced by a Jaguar classic.
One of the cars that really made Jaguar famous throughout the world, and you will find this if you ask anybody about Jaguar, they'll mention the E-Type. It was the epitome of Jaguar design in the 60s. It was a wonderful car, it was a great sports car, and it just looks so amazing. It was very important to me and a few others in the business that we went back to designing a sports car again, because that really is a true heritage. And that's where the F-Type comes in. It's the first two-seater sports car from Jaguar since that illustrious E-Type. It's something that really has given us an enormous amount of image throughout the world that we deserve. It's rightfully ours. It's so important we get back to what we're good at, and that's what the F-Type's about. It's the one car that we all wanted to create, and especially in the way it's turned out. The atmosphere we're looking for was there, so when we finally got the opportunity to create the F-Type, and it turned out the way it did, that was a huge moment for me, huge moment. I feel very pleased with it.
Throughout the history of Jaguar, it has remained consistent. If you look back throughout, I think all the designs have a DNA about them that translates from the icon, the E-Type, and we see elements of those cars throughout the heritage of Jaguar. And when you look back at the racing success of the past, I think we've translated the performance and efficiency into the F-Type.
Welcome back to the Art of Jaguar. After the design and engineering process, it's time for these drivable works of art to go into production. Since the 1970s, all Jaguar cars have been constructed at the historic Castle Bromwich in England.
I'm Graham Harvey. I currently work for Jaguar as a tour guide host at Castle Bromwich. Castle Bromwich originally was built by the British government in 1938 to manufacture Spitfire fighters and Lancaster bombers for the war effort. There was some 12,000 Spitfires manufactured and 300 plus Lancaster bombers on this site. Jaguar are now the owners of the site, and all the Jaguar current range is manufactured on this site. This morning we'll be going into the F-Type sports car assembly area. Okay, we're currently manufacturing 76 vehicles per day. 8-hour shift in the morning, manufacturing 38. Afternoon shift, a further 38, total 76.
The assembly process is accomplished by using a combination of manpower and robotics. The first stop is where the aluminum bodies are riveted together using cutting-edge aerospace technology to create the strongest bond possible. The robots are extremely accurate and efficient, ensuring only the highest quality product rolls off the line.
The chassis of the car has been constructed as a floor with the upper body manufactured to the floor, we're now going to see what we call the closure panels fitted to the car, which is the two doors and the hood, as you call it, yeah, the bonnet. So we'll see those parts go on, and then we'll see the car inspected before we send it for paint. At this point, we need to ensure that we've got 100% perfect body assembly cosmetically before we apply the paint to the car. What we'll see him do, he'll wipe an oil-based substance over the car to make it shine, and that'll aid him to use the high-intensity lights to actually find any of those little issues that we need to remove to make the car perfect. This is the area on the assembly track where we actually fit the powertrain to the vehicle. The powertrain's connected as a full assembly on a moving trolley, and then we lift it up from the underside of the vehicle and bolt it to the vehicle body. This term is engine marriage.
From there, the interior of the car, including the dashboard and the instrument panel, are attached, along with the road wheels on the outside. Then the car is ready to drive off the line. The made-to-order F-Types are on their way to customers all around the world, but Jaguar's involvement isn't over yet. In order to get the most out of their beautiful new cars, Jaguar offers purchasers access to the Performance Driving Academy, a course where professional race car drivers and experts like lead instructor Davy Jones teach the art of driving to car enthusiasts.
The Jaguar Performance Driving Academy is not necessarily a racing school. We're not teaching you how to race. We're not teaching you how to go fast. We're teaching you the performance side of the vehicle. A high percentage of people that come through our program have never done anything like this. So when they spend a day with us going through the academy, they're like, wow, this is incredible. I have a whole new appreciation for the vehicle that I purchased. Learning what a car can do is pretty phenomenal. You drive cars every day, to and from work, to the grocery store and back and so on. And a lot of times we just take the car for granted, not really understanding that the car really is a performance vehicle and how refined it is. So what separates the Jaguar Performance Driving Academy from other academies that are out there, I would have to say it's the level of the instruction. We have 9 instructors that have a vast background of motorsports experience, and they're really good at relaying to participants in a coaching style on what the car is doing so they can understand it in a quicker, easier way of controlling the vehicle. And I oversee the 9 drivers.
When you're on the highway, if you need more than this amount of steering input, hold on, because you have something big coming your way. So keep that position in the 9 and 2. I believe the Jaguar is a work of art just by looking at them. I mean, all the lines of the Jaguars are all so beautiful. And then you throw in that awesome technology and the performance that they put into it, that it really makes it the best of both worlds. My name is Roberto Guerrero, and I'm one of the instructors for the Jaguar Driving Academy. The Jaguar Driving Academy is really cool because the owners that buy these beautiful automobiles, 500 horsepower plus, they actually get a chance to come with us and actually learn not only a lot about their cars, but a lot about themselves. And we feel that we make those drivers a better driver.
The course is structured into 3 levels with a wide variety of exercises designed to challenge drivers and teach them to become more competent behind the wheel.
We're teaching people to walk before they can run. We have something called an autocross, which is kind of like a little racetrack, but it's a little racetrack with cones in a parking lot. And the idea of the autocross is that they are doing the same things that they will be doing in the racetracks, but the speeds are a lot slower. We also use the skid pad, and that's the one that most people have the most fun, because it's the only exercise that we can actually disconnect all the electronic aids on the cars, the traction control, the stability aids. That's when you realize how much those electronics are doing for you, so they get to slide the car around and control the environment that is very safe for everyone. Normally in levels 2 and 3, we finish the day with what we call a hot lap. And then here you're just kind of patient, and then coming out of here is good to straighten the steering wheel as quickly as possible, so you can get on the power nice and early going out of there. We have been sitting on the right seat most of the day, teaching the students what to do, Well, the hot lap is the opposite. We actually get to drive the cars for 1 or 2 laps, showing them the capabilities of the cars and how we do it. And everybody seems to get a big kick out of that, too.
I'm absolutely going to appreciate my car even more. Now I really know what it can do, and even though I may rarely get to that limit of performance in town or on the highway, it's pretty special knowing what that car can do, and it can probably keep me out of trouble a little bit too.
We decided to take this course to give me a little more confidence behind the wheel. I was pushed outside of my comfort level at every single turn and enjoyed every moment of it. Today we went from driving around a track to sliding on wet roads to doing cone drills in a fast car. Nothing competes.
I think the most satisfying part of my job is just seeing the smiles on people's faces when they're like, this is incredible. This is something that I never thought that coming to this academy that I would have so much fun and enjoy the vehicle so much.
Jaguar puts the utmost care and thought into every step of the process. From concept and design to the logistics and engineering to the manufacturing and even after the car is sold. They make cars that have been striking an emotional chord in consumers for decades and will continue to do so for decades to come.